So in summary, there are 2 points to be made. First is TarantulaKat just dropped a video on Grammostola rosea, and if it's a good beginner tarantula or not, if you want to go the route of tarantula keeping, we decided to make a short little video on Grammostola rosea, our husbandry tips and notes, including some footage of Grammostola rosea in the wild. If you've been on this channel before, you maybe have seen the video Grammostola rosea and Grammostola porteri we've seen in Chile, but now we'd just like to combine it a little bit better and give some tips and notes from our side and a suggestion if it's the tarantula for you or if it's not the one for you. So starting with the actual distribution range of Grammostola rosea, as you know, they have quite a huge distribution range, and at the moment it's not really clear which of the species is Grammostola rosea. So the taxonomy part is quite confusing and it's not cleared. There's a revision going on with the Chilean arachnologists involved, and I hope they will figure it out very soon. But until this will happen, we're not sure which species of tarantula you have back at home. So maybe you're living in the US and you got it from your local reptile breeder who has also an import of Chilean tarantulas, which is at the moment not really allowed. But TarantulaKat already said that, so there's no need to actually repeat things multiple times. I'm sorry. Anyway, if you have an adult female, then make sure that you'll keep it as dry as possible, and also maybe, invest some time and check out the behavior of the tarantula. If she heads over to a moist place, maybe around the water dish, then you should maybe make the enclosure a little bit more moist for this specimen you have, because the distribution range is big and there are certain parts who get more rain. And if a tarantula, like an adult female of Grammostola rosea, is in the pet trade and it's a wild-caught one from legal exports from Chile, then this specimen has lived somewhere in the woods for 10 years. And if it was a wet place and moist place, then you should not keep it dry. And if it's a dry place, then make sure the adult female gets some sort of dry enclosure. So always, check the behavior of the tarantula and invest some time on these big adult females. On the other hand, if you have a sling, a spiderling, TarantulaKat noted that they grow like rocks. They are so slow growers. Just as a side note, I contacted TarantulaKat before recording this video, asking her for permission to do this sort of reaction video to her Grammostola rosea beginner video. She's totally fine with it, and that's awesome. So head over to her channel and check her out, TarantulaKat. But even though they grow very slow, they still take some food, and that's the fun part. If you're a beginner, you want to see your tarantula growing, but you also want maybe some activity and action going on. So if you feed them, then you at least have some sort of activity of the tarantula, and you can actually document how the specimen will eat the cricket you gave it to her. Anyway, with adult females, you don't really have that, because if they decide to not eat for 6 or 8 months, they're just in the pet. They're just in the enclosure. But maybe that's totally fine for you. I don't say you should do it or you should not do it. You should just be aware of the facts. So if you have a small tarantula, Grammostola rosea, then you can get the excitement of feeding it and seeing it grow. But if you buy an adult tarantula of Grammostola rosea, it will not mostly happen that much. They will not eat that often. You can't feed them all week, 2 weeks, 1 month. Sometimes they really wait for quite a long time. And some beginners actually are afraid of that because the tarantula is not eating anymore and they might look for advice. Nothing to worry about. Let's head to the next one. So I think regarding coloration and the actual mood of Grammostola rosea, Kat already told everything about it, so there's no need from our side. But Grammostola rosea in the nature actually digs some quite deep burrows, and they usually live underneath rocks. Therefore, your enclosure can be as basic or as on expert level and bioactive as you want it to have. So they are not that much hard to care. But there is one exception, and there is the winter time. In Chile, there is quite a long winter, of course, and the temperature will drop. So if you have a room or you are in a country where it's like very hot all the time, around 30 degrees Celsius, and you can actually make a room for your tarantulas where there is like 25, 23 degrees Celsius, and it's permanently above 25 degrees Celsius, all your other tarantulas from the tropical countries near the equator, such as Ecuador, Colombia, Panama, they are all more into these hot places and they will grow like crazy. But Grammostola rosea actually doesn't really like to be kept in that humid and hot places. Of course, in Chile, they have 35 degrees and up, and Grammostola rosea also lives there, but that's the reason why they dig that deep burrows. So they actually dig down around 50 centimeters so they can escape the heat. So if you can provide an enclosure in a room where there is not that high temperatures, make sure you can provide that. If you can't provide it and you live maybe in the Philippines where it's all the time very hot and humid and there is no air condition in your room, it's maybe not the best. And it's not the best because I say it so, but because that's the reason why Grammostola rosea gets moody. Usually when you keep them too warm, and I can reproduce this also in Switzerland, if I keep them too warm around 25, 26, 27 degrees Celsius, they are quite defensive and moody. They don't really, they're just completely different spiders. And if you keep them at lower temperatures, if you could do it with all the Chilean tarantulas, then it's probably best for everyone. So in summary, there are 2 points to be made. First is make sure you decide if you would ever want to have a adult female which is not that active, or you choose the beginner species, but you need to invest more time to get a seed growing, but in the end, you have a lot more activity during feeding periods and molting periods. Second point made is housing of the tarantulas with the specific temperature and their attitude in correlation to each other. So if you keep Grammostola rosea too hot, too warm, too humid, then they tend to be way more defensive and moody and are not that calm as you would like to expect from a Grammostola rosea. But if you keep them a lot cooler, at around 22 to 24 degrees Celsius, then this might be the tarantula for you if you can provide a room with an air condition depending on the country you are, and therefore it would make the perfect pet tarantula for starters and also enthusiasts, because Grammostola rosea is an all-time classic, and now where the legal export has shut down, it's even more important that the tarantula community is able to breed this species, so no more wild tarantulas need to get exported from the origin country of Chile. So we all have adult females, adult males, and tons of spiderlings, so let's make use of them and raise the spiderlings a couple of years and then breed the species, because if we don't do this and we don't dedicate the time to it or support the people who are dedicating the time to breeding these hard to breed and also very slow growing species, then in around 10 years there are probably not that many Grammostola rosea available, and certainly not as beginner species. That's it for this video. It's a completely different one than we usually do. For the first time you don't have to see my face, you got to see a lot of habitat, video footage of Grammostola rosea, including some husbandry notes of the species. I hope you like it. If you do, leave a comment down below, it would be awesome. Also thumbs up the video and maybe subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. I'll see you then.